I'm Trace Gallagher at the breaking news desk in Los Angeles. There is breaking news out of New York. Word from New York's LaGuardia Airport this hour that a plane carrying Republican vice presidential candidate Mike Pence has now slid off the runway. That is a live look at what's going on right now. You can see the ambulances and fire trucks on scene. There was nobody hurt on crew, but emergency crews are there to assist people getting off the plane. This happened, as you can see, on the runway on a very wet night at LaGuardia Airport. Mike Pence later reported seeing mud on the windows near the front of the plane, and one of Fox News Channel's producers, Dan Gallo, was actually on board that plane, and he describes it as the following. He says, quote, "We have slid off the runway at LaGuardia. It was the craziest landing I've ever experienced." He goes on to say, "We seemed to be sliding for the distance of the landing, and then a burning smell became obvious like rubber." Pence then came back to make sure everyone was okay. Nobody is injured. Pence said again that he saw mud on the windows at the front of the plane, and they are waiting at the time for emergency personnel to arrive at the plane. Again, we are trying to get Dan Gallo on the phone. As far as we know, they are all still on board that plane, making sure that everyone is okay. Again, as far as we know, there are no injuries. Mike Pence has been traveling for the campaign on a 737. We all know those. Southwest Airlines flies nothing but 737s. A lot of other airlines as well. This one configured differently, though, to bring media along. Keep in mind that it is raining in LaGuardia tonight, and the plane apparently did slide as it was landing. Mike Pence was doing campaign rallies today in the battleground state of Ohio. There were no injuries. Emergency personnel will go to the plane, make sure everybody's okay. You can see on the right-hand side or the left-hand side of your screen what appears to be steps coming out. And again, it's our understanding that if they have gotten off the plane, it was only moments ago. We are working the breaking news. We'll continue to bring you updates on this as they come in. We now have... Okay, we had Dan Gallo on the phone. We're trying to get him back. As soon as we get him back, we'll bring that to you. A little bit more coming into us now at the breaking news desk. Dan Gallo is on the phone. Dan is a Los Angeles producer who's been covering the campaign for Mike Pence. Dan, if you can, I read the statement you gave us. Give me an idea of what happened as you were coming in for landing.
Well, Trace, first off, I'd say that this plane has kind of been known for its rough landings, and people have kind of joked that maybe it was a Navy pilot, and I think Navy pilots maybe are known for landing on carriers that are a little bit different. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's just kind of been the joke because we've had a lot of rough landings where it felt like we landed more than once. You know what I mean? So tonight, when we hit the ground, it felt like we just weren't slowing down, and it felt like the brakes were really jammed on the whole time, the whole distance of the runway. And you know, you couldn't really see outside, so you couldn't really see how fast we were going or where we were. And in fact, when we finally came to a stop, I couldn't tell if we were on the grass or on the runway, but we stayed put for a good long while, and it kind of became obvious that something was askew. The smell of burnt rubber was very obvious, I'd say, at some point as we were landing, and that kind of tipped us off that something wasn't right. After, I guess, maybe 2 minutes, Governor Pence came back and checked on all of the reporters in the back of the plane. He seemed to be fine. He said he saw mud on the front windows of the plane, and that's the first point I realized that I guess we're in the grass, not the runway.
Yeah, it's amazing, Dan. As you look at these pictures, we're looking at live pictures now of the 737 that you have been on now for several months. And I'm curious, give us an idea, Dan, when people who have never flown on a press plane before, it's not exactly the same setup. You don't have flight attendants. Was there anybody, as you came in, on what you appear to say was a hot landing, was there anybody giving you instructions on what to do or what was happening as the plane was kind of sliding down the runway?
No, Trace, I got to say everyone sort of took it all as it happened. There wasn't really anything. I mean, you're moving at a really fast speed. I don't think that a flight attendant would have even had time or the ability to reach over because, you know, for several seconds of uncertainty, you're trying to figure out what's happening, and it's not a time when people are going to get out of their seat and start, you know, yelling instructions at passengers. The plane itself, by the way, you mentioned a lot of people haven't been in a plane like this. it's not, it's not unlike any other 737 that you've flown in, except that, it's all kind of business class seating. So there's more space and everything. There's less seats in the plane. Yeah, I can't say that anybody really knew what was happening until really it ended. Maybe people who know more about flying than I do, but it was a heck of an experience.
And Dan, and when you say when it ended, how did it end? I mean, you say you're going down the runway, and then at some point it appears you went off the runway and hit some mud. So what was the feeling like? Was it a sudden jolt to a stop? Was it kind of a slow stop? What did it feel like as you came to the end of that runway?
Hell, I guess it's a little tough to remember exactly everything, but it felt like it was a pretty sudden stop once we finally did come to a stop. And I don't know if that was wheels getting stuck in the mud. I mean, we didn't go that far off of pavement from what I could tell once we got off the plane. It did appear to me that there was, and maybe you can see this on your pictures, but it appeared to me that some of the pavement was broken up on the actual runway. And I don't know if that was a result of us or if that had already been there. And frankly, I don't know this tarmac real well. I don't know if this was how far off we were. I don't know if we slid 20 feet or 100 feet, to be honest with you. I just know we didn't hit the target.
Yeah, it's fascinating as we watch these live pictures coming out of LaGuardia Airport from our Fox affiliate there, WNYW. Dan Gallo, stand by. I just want to kind of update people who are just joining us, hoping to see the O'Reilly factor. Mike Pence, the GOP VP nominee, his plane coming in from Ohio has slid off the runway in LaGuardia, a 737. It was coming in as 737s do approximately 120, 130 miles per hour, raining in LaGuardia, and it slid off the runway. Dan Gallo, a producer for Fox News Channel, was on board that plane. And quickly, Dan, we don't have much time left, but give me an idea of how many people were on board that plane and if anybody was shaken up. About 15 seconds, Dan.
Yeah, Trace, everybody seemed to be fine. Everybody kind of seemed to be in awe of what we just gone through. There's roughly maybe 40, 45 people, including Secret Service campaign staff and the media, along with the flight staff.
Yeah. All right, Dan Gallo, we'll back to you. Listen, breaking news as it comes in. We'll update you on the story out of LaGuardia Airport. Mike Pence's plane off the runway.